This is Industry Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we analyze a different industry. Today, we're looking at 15 things you didn't know about the pharmaceutical industry. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get informed. Hello, Aluxers, and welcome back to our video brought to you by our team here at Alux.com. What do you think is the one luxury no one can afford to lose? Health. And in order to maintain it, one might need to turn to medicine and pills every once in a while. This is why we've been thinking for today, we'll tell you a little bit more about the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry covers the development, production, and marketing of drugs needed for medical use that are conducted by both private and public organizations. Pharmaceutical companies are meant to serve the good cause of making the world a better place by trying to find a way of abolishing simple or more complex diseases and life-threatening ailments. As you'd expect, this industry is subject to a variety of laws and regulations to ensure no abuse is being carried out. More than any other industry, the pharmaceutical sector invests up to 20% of their incomes in research and development of new ways of treating diseases, and is so complex that lots of other areas come under the same roof in order to develop new ways of making the humans live longer. Whether you're passionate about this part of the industry or simply want to find out more about it, our video will amaze you with some interesting and impressive facts. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. Here are 15 things you didn't know about the pharmaceutical industry. Let's get to it. Number 1. It all started 200 years ago. Medicine has been evolving and changing since the beginning of time, but the modern-day pharmaceutical industry started to develop around the 19th century. The purification of individual organic compounds was perfected in the late 1800s by German dyes manufacturers, and other rudimentary methods in the area of organic chemical synthesis were also established by them. In 1900, diseases such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, and diarrhea were deadly in the US, and mortality in the first year of life exceeded 10%. In the early years of research, the development of new drugs for treating infectious diseases was a focus because they were the leading causes of death in many countries. Number 2. There's no research to prove prescription medication works long-term. Multiple prescription drugs taken in combination are toxic to the liver, kidneys, and other organs, especially if they are taken on a regular basis. Sadly, the long-term effects of taking such toxic cocktails of medicines has never been tested by the FDA. Long-term use of prescription medication can also affect the brain and cause addiction. People are gradually increasing their dosage to achieve the same effect. This is known as tolerance. Many people in the US are consuming these drug cocktails with regularity, even though there's no evidence to support safe, long-term use. Moreover, many of the pharmaceutical companies are inventing positive results for their researches, or are altering conclusions of the drug studies due to funding pressures. Number 3. Big pharma companies get fined a lot. Big Pharma sits at the center of some of the biggest fines ever divvied out among healthcare companies. In 2012, GlaxoSmithKline pled guilty to criminal charges and paid a $3 billion fine after the pharmaceutical company promoted antidepressants to minors. None of the drugs they promoted were approved by the FDA for people less than 18 years old. Companies like Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer also paid large fines for promoting off-label drug use and of illegal marketing of painkillers. Even though the fines were large, almost $2.5 billion for each company, they actually only represent a small amount for these huge pharmaceutical giants, if we're thinking about how much money they make every year. Number 4. Antibiotics were discovered 90 years ago. Antibiotics are extracted and derived from microorganisms, and the growth of or the death of bacteria is controlled by them. Synthetic antibiotics are related to the natural ones and have accomplished similar tasks as they have. Greeks and Indians used molds and other plants to treat infections, and later on in the 1800s, other scientists and doctors have researched the bacteria they produce to fight infections. In 1928, Alexander Fleming, professor of bacteriology at St. Mary's Hospital in London, discovered penicillin, the first true antibiotic. He won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1945 and got knighted in 1944 for his extraordinary achievements which revolutionized the medical sciences. Number 5. Pfizer is the biggest pharmaceutical company in the world, with a net worth of $52.54 billion. Curious to know how much money gets funneled into the pharmaceutical industry every year? Well, we're talking about trillions, and as of 2017, this industry reached unprecedented heights, being estimated at an astounding $1.11 trillion. By 2020, this number is set to rise to $1.43 trillion. Out of all companies, Pfizer makes the most money. The company has its headquarters in Connecticut, USA, and managed to become the world's largest pharmaceutical company. Pfizer is a research-based company and spends money for studies in areas like immunology, oncology, neurosciences, and rare diseases. The second largest pharmaceutical company is Roche, with a net worth of $44.63 billion, and in third place is Sanofi, with a net worth of $36.66 billion. Number 6. Clinical trials don't always get approvals. While preclinical research answers basic questions about a drug's safety, it is not a substitute for studies of ways the drug will interact with the human body. Clinical research refers to studies or trials that are done on people, most times in hospitals. Pharmaceutical companies are usually selective about the information they release after such a research. Pharma giant GlaxoSmithKline did just that with the results of their Paxil trial research because its data showed that the drug was less than effective in children and teens. The company was forced to publish all the results after a lawsuit. But the sad part is that this is just one lawsuit. Other companies still won't publish all the conclusions of their studies or keep doing research without FDA approvals, which is extremely problematic. Number 7. In 2015, HIV drugs went from $13 a tablet to $750 overnight. Martin Shkreli, the founder and chief executive of Turing Pharmaceuticals, caused a lot of rage in 2015 when he bought the company that manufactured one of the most effective HIV medicines and raised the price overnight from $13 to $750. The cost of the annual diaprim treatment rose too, reaching enormous sums of money. Shkreli declared after the increasing of the price that the impact on the health system would be really small, the drug being rarely used. He also said the money earned for selling the drug would be used for research and development of a new drug for toxoplasmosis, but he definitely got a lot of hate from everyone. But I guess, as they say, karma's a bitch. Martin Shkreli was sentenced to 7 years in a federal prison in March of 2018. Number 8. There is a Big Pharma conspiracy going around. Big Pharma is the name given to the 15 huge companies in the pharmaceutical industry, and it's surrounded by a lot of conspiracy theories. Many people believe these companies work hand in hand with governments to keep their populations sick, so there's always a profit to be had. One of the biggest conspiracies in this industry, however, was HIV/AIDS related. Some claim that the virus and disease don't actually exist, and it's just a big pharma conspiracy to make people buy expensive medicines and hide the fact they don't know what is killing people. In February of 2018, a Russian mother who didn't believe in the existence of AIDS was charged with manslaughter after her HIV-positive baby died. The baby's mother was HIV positive too and refused treatment for herself and her daughter, leading to the little girl's death. These conspiracy theories are a huge problem because people are refusing treatments or vaccinations against all sorts of diseases. Number 9. Advertising is key in the industry. Look, everybody needs medicine every once in a while, and maybe you don't really care who's selling the ibuprofen you're buying. But the truth is, the laws of economics apply here as well, and companies fight each other in order to gain a bigger share of the market. It takes serious advertising dollars to promote a drug to consumers and doctors in order to build awareness. It seems like in the US, big pharma companies spend more than $200 million a year for advertising purposes in order to make their products visible. They turn to all sorts of tactics, from hiring famous people to talk about a product to giving free samples to doctors so they would promote the medicine to its customers. Unfortunately, in a lot of countries, the regulations are vague or unclear, so a lot of commercials push consumers to buy and trust the meds without giving away too much information about the side effects. Number 10. The pharmaceutical industry is the most profitable of them all, with over $154 billion spent on drugs. All people get sick, and the modern, less painful way to treat diseases is with medicine. The pharmaceutical industry is by far one of the most profitable industries of all, and major generic pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and GSK lead the way. When looking at the top 10 industries in the world, you'll find among them biotech, generic and major pharmaceutical companies, along with major banks and investment firms. Americans spent $154 billion on prescription drugs last year. That's an increase of more than 17% over 2016, according to a study by the National Institute for Healthcare Management, and the pharmaceutical sector gained a share of 21.6% net profit margin in 2016. And since we're talking about medicine, what about checking our top 10 richest doctors in the world video by clicking in the top right corner? Number 11. There's still no complete cure for cancer, HIV, or Parkinson's disease. Cancer is the modern-age killer of about 600,000 people a year in the United States alone, and more than 1.5 million people are prone to be diagnosed with cancer in the near future, says the National Cancer Institute. Yet, not a lot of progress in finding a complete cure for the disease has been found over the years, with researchers often not being able to reach common ground on the matter. There are hundreds of campaigns and donations all over the world for cancer research and other deadly diseases, but so far, not much has been revealed. The number of people living with HIV/AIDS worldwide has topped 34 million people, with many of them living in developing countries. Despite enormous efforts of more than 30 years, HIV/AIDS researchers have yet to develop another vaccine or cure for the disease. Number 12. Japan's pharmaceutical industry is booming. Japan is the world's second pharmaceutical market, closely behind the US and China that share the first place. Since the country's population is quickly aging, and elder people often need more medicinal drugs, it makes for a great market for the pharmaceutical industry. Lately, Japan's government has eased regulations relating to testing, and the introduction of new drugs into the market has been made easier as well. Big pharma companies quickly picked up on the business opportunity, and the initiative was welcomed by the Japanese government in order to attract new companies to the market. Number 13. Engineers and new technology are helping a lot. Smallpox and polio have become eradicated through vaccinations, and the good news is that for every dreaded disease that's currently being researched, there's a possibility of a cure. New technology and new ideas are currently helping the medical and pharmaceutical industry to find treatments or cures for diseases that affect the global population. There is a hope for cancer, Ebola, HIV, Alzheimer's, and cystic fibrosis to be cured in our lifetime, and even tech companies like Apple, IBM, and Google started investments in the field of medical development. These companies are well placed to utilize an array of technologies that can provide insights into the patient's condition, and this is only the beginning of what those companies can do in medical and pharmaceutical research. Number 14. Supplements only make you thirsty. Vitamins remain an essential item that we need to support our body in its natural wear and tear process. Various foods give us these vitamins as well as other natural sources. When the body does not get the required levels, vitamin supplements are typically used to balance out the deficit. What we know as excessive thirst also has a medical name, polydipsia, and can be a symptom of various conditions. Excessive thirst can also appear from taking too many vitamins and supplements. People still need vitamins and they can help your body if you lack some, but keep in mind that if you're not under a doctor's eye, you might not be doing so well by taking them daily. Number 15. Developing a new drug costs around $2.6 billion. Huge amounts of money go into developing new drugs. Pharmaceutical companies spend, on average, $2.6 billion on new drugs. That sum of money includes costs associated with drug failure. Also, those $2.6 billion are made up out of out-of-pocket costs, around $1.4 billion, and returns that investors pass on during the development period of the drug, around $1.2 billion. Moreover, another $312 million are usually spent on post-approval development studies in order to test new indicators, formulations, and dosage strengths. The amount of money that is spent today to develop a new drug is enormous in comparison to the one spent during the 1980s, $413 million. The pharmaceutical industry is a controversial one, with all kinds of debates going on around the money invested there. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed our video today. Before we go, we'd like to ask you, what is your opinion on the Big Pharma conspiracy theories? Let us know in the comments below. And since you watched the video all the way to the end, as always, we have a bonus fact just for you. Number 16. Many studies show that cannabis have a lot of healing properties. Cannabis or marijuana are legal or becoming legal in Canada, Holland, South Africa, Israel, and some USA states. Possession of cannabis became illegal in most countries since the late 1930s, and in many cases still is today. In several parts of the world, the possession of small quantities of cannabis is legal, being decriminalized. However, medicinal cannabis can also be used to help a lot of people in pain suffering from terminal cancer, AIDS, or even ADHD. Moreover, medicinal cannabis can be used for reducing nausea during chemotherapy, improving appetite in HIV/AIDS patients, improving sleep, and even tics in Tourette syndrome. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxer. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. If you want more, we handpicked these videos you might enjoy, or head over to Alux.com for the best in fine living content on the planet. Be a part of the largest community of luxury enthusiasts in the world and tell your story.